years. We started a new European institutions, new Parliament in 2014, new Commission, and there'll be new elections in the European Parliament in May 2019. And so it's a year of delivering results. This week, Council, Parliament, Commission agreed on the priorities for next year, on the economy, doubling the strategic fund for investments, completing the banking union, addressing also on our borders, better border control, asylum reform, migration reform, and so forth. I mean, so it's going to be a year of very intense legislative activity, VAT reform, copyright reform, and telecom reform. So I think you can expect a lot coming out from the European institutions, from Brussels next year. On trade policy, I think you will see the same. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody that when 6 countries decided to create European Economic Communities in 1956, they immediately saw that if you create one common market, you need to have, internally, you need to have one common commercial policy and then one negotiator internationally. So it's just not possible to do separate deals on trade policy with individual countries, and that still is the case today with the 28 countries. So if you want to do bilateral with Europe, you do a bilateral with the European Union. Next year, we will harvest the results of negotiations in CETA with our Canadian partners. We expect a vote in the European Parliament the first quarter, and so it should enter into force very soon after. Vietnam next year as well will ratify Vietnam. And then we also ratified the Singapore FTA, which has been at the Court of Justice after it will come out of the European Court of Justice, where we asked a question on sharing of power. Where does the line, where can we draw the line between the powers of the European Union and the powers of the member state on essentially investment protection? And then we'll continue our negotiating agenda. Wendy mentioned our EU-Japan FTA, or indeed the chief negotiator is in Tokyo, trying to wrap up an agreement in principle. In any event, we would have to wrap up the negotiations next year. We have the upgrade of our FTA with Mexico, where also we find very experienced negotiators after having done the TPP negotiations, and very eager to move as fast as possible. Mercosur is a negotiation that's very active on our side. But also in Asia, we've launched FTA negotiations with Indonesia, for example. We still have BIT negotiations with China, with Myanmar. So and I don't mention them all. So very active negotiating agenda from European Union next year. We will also continue the reform of our trade defense instruments. You may have seen this week there was an agreement among member states for the first time in more than 10 years on how to reform our anti-dumping laws, and in particular what kind of exceptions can we create to the lesser duty rule, faster proceedings, and also creating the power for the Commission to self-initiate a case. We know that has been an issue before in some countries. 2017, I think, will also be a year to reflect on the perception of globalization, on what do we need to change on this in trade, and broader than this. I think it's quite clear that in a number of member states there is a very significant backlash against more market integration, against what has happened. Maybe this is where I should mention, of course, that next year, as you know, we will launch the Brexit talks with the United Kingdom. The talks are being prepared very thoroughly on both sides, and we'll wait for the plan of the United Kingdom on what is the destination, what is the landing zone, which they have in mind for these talks. And of course, we have a Ministerial of the World Trade Organization in Buenos Aires at the end of the year, where we'll also be working with all the WTO partners on a successful outcome, and it's quite clear, I think, that the United States will have to be active to move these forward. TISA and EGA, I've got good agreement negotiations we hope to continue and conclude next year. Two last topics, TTIP and the transition. On TTIP, as you know, we've been negotiating for 3.5 years. We've achieved a lot of results. We've done a lot of work. In particular, in the regulatory cluster, we've agreed on how to get rid of unnecessary red tape in a number of areas. We'll stand ready when the new administration has done its policy review to resume the talks to see whether or not they want to continue these negotiations. We think we can get a good agreement for both. What is being done now is we're taking snapshots in each of the areas, 20 or more areas of what we've achieved, what are the areas of disagreement, agreement, so that we can properly resume if and when the US is ready. And with the new administration, we have a lot of things to discuss. Our companies are facing common challenges in emerging markets. There's work to be done together on these various challenges for sure. Someone reminded me recently that compared to the last Republican administration, this one of 16 years ago, this one is actually ahead of schedule. And so I think we'll be patient and stand ready to talk with them.